Welcome back, friends. We have just talked about the introductory speech of cancer biology, and we knew that how and what is cancer, and basically, let's just make a gist of cancer and let it be there throughout the discussion period. Is that we are having normal cell. Now, this cell uh, can grow and divide like that on this side, and on this side, this cell can be killed. Dead cells. Okay. Now two things can happen. This growth and division will be upgraded, and this death will be down regulated. Okay. So cell death will be decreased and this growth will be increased. Then this healthy cell will become cancerous cells. I don't know whether you are going to recognize it because I have written it smaller font. Anyways, this is a schematic. This is the gist of our discussion. We had normal cell. Let me draw the nucleus for you. This is the nucleus, say nucleolus and all this. Okay. Normal cell, it can grow and divide. It can be dead. Now this death decreased and this growth and division increased. Then this healthy cell will become cancerous cell. Okay. This is the gist for understanding cancer. Okay. Now in this video we'll be talking about some of the important properties of cancer cells. Okay. And how we need to deal with these properties and how they get those properties. We know that alteration in chromosomal regions, and then we'll see what are the advantages that they can get by getting those properties, or by having those properties rather. Okay, so the properties, so we'll be talking about properties of these cancerous cells. So let us first talk. So here are the properties. One is, say, the very important property of all is this cancer cells, they are having both these things, rapid growth signal and then decline of the dead signal. Okay, so these cells become immortal. So let us consider it this way. These cells are becoming immortal. Immortality is a property of cancer cells, because the normal death pathways inside our body, utilizing different enzymatic pathways, which is called programmed cell death or apoptosis, is not present in case of this cancerous cells. So there is no apoptosis or no programmed cell death. So emphasis on no apoptosis happening. First important thing. Second thing, rapid growth and division. Now inside this point we are going to talk about a little bit more, that this rapid growth is obtained by the cells utilizing the signals. Okay, signals as a form of hormones or chemical mediators, right? Now inside our body there are systems which control the growth and division of the cells. Now if you think about the cell cycle, G0, G1, S and G2 phases are going on. So let us consider this part. So we are having the cell cycle, and this is the interphase region, and this is the mitotic phase. So large part is the interphase. So we are having G1, we are having G1, we are having S and G2 phases. So, and also, yes. So if we draw, there are checkpoints in between these segments. There is a checkpoint between G1 and S. There is a checkpoint between G2 and M. There is a checkpoint between S, G2, and also another checkpoint resides between metaphase and anaphase. So these checkpoints that are present in different barriers, from one phase to another phase in cell cycle, this checkpoint ensures proper cell growth and division. Now if this checkpoint fail to control the division, it will lead to rapid growth and division. Okay, for example, this S phase means the synthesis. So in this S phase, the duplication of chromosome happens. Now if the duplication of chromosome perfectly not happen, suppose somewhere due to some reason duplication of chromosome is not sufficiently happen in the S phase, then this checkpoint between S and G2 will block the cell to enter into the G2 phase. It will freeze the cell onto the S phase, and some chemical mediators will come and tell the cell via the cell signaling that you haven't produced the number of chromosomes we require for the proper division. So go back and produce them first, produce it according to the law, according to the agreement, then you will be able to enter to the G2 phase. So here is the checkpoint, the role of checkpoint to check whether everything is perfect or not. But in this case, if it is failed, the cell will be halted, it won't be allowed to pass this checkpoint and come to the G2 phase. But what will happen in case of these cancer cells, these checkpoints are faulty. So there are faulty checkpoints. So checkpoints are failed to stop the cells which are functioning abnormally. Though the cells are functioning abnormally, though this cell is unable to produce any right number of chromosome in the S phase, but still the cell is allowed to pass this checkpoint and come to the G2 phase. So faulty checkpoint is an example. So here faulty checkpoint can cause this rapid growth and division of the cell. So this is one example of this. Now what other things are involved in this factor? There are growth promoting factors, or GPFs, or simple GFs, or growth promoting hormones that are present. Now there is a chemical signaling pathway, cell signaling pathway, with which there are receptors outside the cell which receives these growth signals, growth hormones. And again draw this structure. So here cells, we are having growth hormone receptors. Now whenever hormone comes and sit onto this receptor, it will eventually send some signals to the nucleus, and then this nucleus will further generate signal, downstream signal. It will produce proteins, and this growth proteins, these proteins, not actually growth proteins, but these proteins will start to make the cell and prepare the cell for division, because the ultimate goal of a cell is to be divided. Most of the cells, actually, most of the cells, there are exceptions, but most of the cells, it will start growing up to a particular volume and amount, then it will be divided, right? So this division is triggered by these growth factors. So they are called EGF is an example of growth factor. It is called epidermal growth factor, and so on. So these growth factors will attach to the growth receptor, and all these things are happening. Now what will happen to a cell when the cell is near death phase? So suppose a cell is there for a long period of time, it is aged, now it need to die. In those cases, as the cell is going aged, it will reduce producing these growth receptors, growth factor receptors. But in case of cancerous cells, this never happens. The cells start producing, it won't stop producing those growth factor receptors. So in aged conditions also, the cells are providing those growth receptors. As they're providing those growth receptors, growth molecules or hormones come and sit, and everything is going on, cell will divide and divide and divide. So there is a faulty signaling of epidermal growth factor or growth. So this growth receptor, and there is a problem inside this cell signaling pathway. Okay, so we can write it like that. Lots of growth receptor outside the cell, or in the cell surface, actually. Okay, so this is the thing which again tell us rapid division and growth. Okay, so the cell signaling which is triggered, and also the faulty checkpoints. These two things together uh, make the cells to grow rapidly, or force the cells to grow rapidly. So they are providing the cell, they are telling the cell it's fine to grow and divide, no problem for that. Okay, and the third point, let's consider about this growth and proliferation also. For the growth and proliferation, we can know another thing is that when a cell is there, so it's not a single cell inside our body. There are chunk of cell, masses of cells. So say if we are having here a cell, after division a cell will be there. So the division, so cells are placed just one after another to form sheet-like structures in our epidermal lining, endodermal lining, and different places. We can find this layer of cells instead of one or two cells like that. Now when the cells are becoming crowded, after a time, these contact between one cell and another cell, one cell with another cell, this contact will inhibit the cell for division. It inhibit the cell to divide. It will tell the cell, yes, it's a time to just sit there, don't not need to divide in those cases. Suppose we are having a wound in this place and some cells die. In those cases, this nearby cells will start to divide and fill the gap. Sorry, if I make it with another color, they'll start to grow and fill the gap. It will happen, right? But in normal conditions, when there are a lot of cells, and suppose I am a cell, besides me another cell is there, so if I so the touch between one cell with another cell will tell or give some signal to the nearby cells that it's the time not to divide, because we are having a lot of cells there, it is crowded, so don't make it overcrowded. This is a signaling pathway that is telling the cell to do that. But in case of cancerous cells, they won't get this signal. So this is called the contact inhibition of a cell division and cell growth. Now this contact inhibition is never there in case of cancerous cells, because cancerous cells won't get those signals. They will grow and grow even though they have contacted with other cells. There are a lot of cells, but they don't bother. They just start grow and dividing. So no contact inhibition is another important property of cancer cell. Okay, so we have talked about growth and multiplication. Now let us talk about another major feature of this cancer cells, and that is proliferation, right? So this cancer cell not only can grow in one place, it can proliferate from one region to another region. That is also making them pretty much dangerous, because if it can grow and place into one place, that is fine, you can cut this place and out and you'll be free for the disease, from the disease. But in case of cancer, if some cancerous cells grow in particular place, you will never be sure that these cells are not proliferating in your body, because it's a property of cancer cell to move from one place to another place and invade those tissues, and move one place to another place and produce tumors in different regions of your body. Okay, so this is proliferation is a very important point. And this proliferation of cancer cells, this property is called metastasis. Metastasis of cancer cells. They are invasive in nature. They invade our tissue. They invade our lining, our tissue lining like basal lamina, and can go from one place to another place. This process is called the metastasis of cancer cells. Okay, now they can metastasize, they can produce tumors from one place to another place by going one place to another place. Now, along with that, one question must come in your mind, that a cell is there. Suppose I think that I know that this growth machinery is faulty. Checkpoints are faulty, so they start dividing rapidly. They can't be dead, so they are immortal in nature, because the normal killing pathways are inside our body, which is called apoptosis, fail to kill those cells. Everything is fine, the cells are growing rapidly. Now when a cell is growing rapidly, it must need nutritional supplement, isn't it? Each of single cell inside our body must get the acquired or required amount of nutrient supplement for their growth. They are giant cells, they're growing like a giant rapidly, so they will need much nutrients inside our body. See, if we stop providing them nutrients, they won't grow, right? So from where they are getting that much amount of nutrients, from where they are getting that much amount of energy for doing that many things inside our body, then the answer will be, here again they are having a very tricky modifications in them. Though they are growing rapidly, though they are doing things in their ways, though they are doing things very rapidly than the normal cells, but still they won't require that much of nutrient sources. They won't require that. They will adjust in very fewer amount of nutrients for their growth and division. But they need oxygen and also they need the nutrient sources. But if they make that much amount of clump of cells, chunk of cells, instead of sheet, they are producing linings of cells. So from where they are getting those things? Because we don't have blood vessels running out from those regions. Those tumors are newly formed. Then the answer will be, they are again having a tactics. As the cells start to grow, blood vessels will cover them up. Because this is a normal procedure of our body. If there somewhere inside our body there is no blood vessel, those region of the cell will die. So it's a normal procedure of our body to produce blood vessels for reaching each and every corner of our body. So whatever it is producing, if it's a tumor producing just like there here for example, then the blood vessel will start to form. And this blood vessel will start to provide the required nutrients and oxygens to those cells. So it's a lining, it's something like that. It's a lining of cells, then the blood vessels are moving like that from one region to another region like that. Then again another line of cell will come onto the top. So that's how lining of blood vessels and then lining of cells will cover and make a bulge-like structure. This feature of the cancerous cell is called angiogenesis. So they are also angiogenic in nature. Low nutrient and oxygen requirement. This is a fact, and they achieve this thing by regulating their metabolism very tightly, and then they are angiogenic in nature. Angiogenesis means formation of those blood vessels onto the layering of these cancerous cells. Then again new cells are coming up, new blood vessels are coming up, and those blood vessels are supplying food and oxygen to these cells. Okay, so these are the properties, the major properties. There are also other types of properties. Lot of properties of cells can be there, but these are the major type of properties of a cancer cell. Okay, the main two things you must understand is this. So in cancer cells, these are normal cells. They are transformed. They are transformed into the deadliest cells by just modification in two things. One is normal procedure inside our body. Apoptosis or programmed cell death will be unable to kill those cells. Second thing, the growth regulation fails to control the division of the cells. So upgradation of this cellular growth and division, down regulation of these death patterns. Both the things combined together can cause cancer. Each of the single thing cannot cause cancer. Remember, if a cell will start grow and grow and grow all the time, programmed cell death can kill those cells, right? So it won't cause cancer. Those cells will not become immortal. And if a cell is not immortal, we won't bother about them, because whatever they are doing, after some time they will die. We know that via the normal apoptosis pathway. But if a cell is growing rapidly and we cannot kill them, these two things are happening at the same time, then those normal cells become deadlier. That is actually happening in case of cancer. Okay, so this is the most important thing you must remember about this cancer properties. Now in this video also, let me tell you the difference between two types of tumors that we are going to see, that we can see inside our body. One is the benign type of tumor, another one is the malignant type. Remember, we have talked this cancerous cells, they form tumors and we call them the malignant tumors. In case of normal tumors, what will happen? Those normal tumors can start, those cells are also start growing and dividing. So they are also having this leaky or faulty checkpoints. They also have this faulty checkpoints. They also limit this limiting of this contract inhibition is not there. So there are some common properties between a malignant tumor and benign tumor. But those benign tumor cells are not immortal like that. But those benign tumor cells are not angiogenic. Those benign tumors, though they are a little bit angiogenic, but those benign tumors are not proliferating. So they cannot metastasize. So if I write these two things, malignant and benign, there are some similarities. Both of them are tumors. Both of them are, tumors. Both of them are lacking the factor to regulate their growth. So that's why they become tumorous. Both of them lack the contact inhibition. They are a little bit of angiogenic. But these benign tumors, remember, these benign tumors are not metastasizing. They cannot metastasize. They cannot proliferate from one place to another place. They are not invasive. These malignant tumors are invasive. And they are progressively invasive. The term progressively invasive, that means the invasion property of these tumors are getting increased and increased as they are going on. So they are progressively invasive, but these benign tumors, non-invasive, no metastasis, no invasion. Simple mass of cells growing onto a particular region, just onto that region. So if we cut those cells out from them, or if we treat it with other radiation things to kill those cells, or if we just trigger the normal apoptotic pathway inside the cell, those cells will going to be killed and those benign tumor will be vanished. So the normal tumor treatment can easily cure the tumor disease. The tumor is not a disease. It's a part of a cell that is producing that. If we treat it, it will abolish. It will go. But in case of malignant tumor, we cannot go against it because it is immortal. We cannot kill them like that. Normal pathway cannot kill them. We can kill them from outside, but it won't lead to that much effect, because suppose we are seeing a tumor is forming here, which is a malignant. We kill this, but we never know. Some of these tumors are still circulating in my body. From where I can find those tumors? They are inside our whole body. So now suppose those cells are proliferating and come to my lungs and cause a lung cancer. Then from the lungs it will travel to my liver and produce malignant tumor there. So that is a dangerous property. This metastasis is a dangerous property for tumors. They can proliferate, but benign tumors cannot proliferate. That is the difference. Okay. Now there are several different types of cancers that we can see. So from the next video we'll be talking about the type of cancers, or let us just talk about it in this video. No problem. So if I write type of cancers, what will be the types of cancers? Actually we can divide according to the majority. There are three types of cancers basically. One is carcinoma, which is the major part of the cancer. Above 80% type of cancer is carcinoma. Now carcinoma means the cancer in the epithelial cells or epithelial tissues. Okay, of epithelial tissues. For example, skin. So let me write down the examples. For examples, or let us tell you, the skin. So it's a totally epithelial layer, and also epithelial of our organs. For example, liver, colon, prostate. So these are the regions where they also are having epithelial regions, internal tissues. Now those internal epithelial tissues can also have cancers, and we'll be calling them carcinomas. The second type of cancer that we can have is sarcoma. Okay, sarcoma is not that much common. It is less than 2% of the cancer are a sarcoma type, are of sarcoma type. Now the sarcoma means the cancer in the mesodermal layer of the tissues. For example, the cancer of cartilage, bone, and also fat tissues. So if you are having cancer in the fat tissues, cartilage, and bone, we call them carcinomas. For example, there is a lot common cancer in this gum of our mouth, in our lining of tooth, right? These regions, if cancer cells grow there, tumor forms there, malignant tumor forms there, we call them sarcomas. So bone, let me write it, bone, cartilage, and fat tissues. Okay, so let me write, and fat tissues. The third type, which is also a common one, lymphoma and leukemia. Both of them are directly linked with our immune system, because lymphoma, as the name suggests, is the cancer of our lymphoid organs. For example, the lymph nodes that are found here on this regions, lymph nodes, and also lymph nodes like spleen. But leukemia is a totally different kind of cancer. It is a cancer where we won't find, the only type of cancer where we won't find a chunk of cells. Instead, we can find single cells but increase in numbers. Remember, in case of leukemia, single cell and they are proliferating, but this type of cancer are called a liquid cancer because the cell that we can find in leukemia is not in mass, it is floating as a liquid or in the liquid, increasing number of cells. Okay, and the cells is not present as chunk of cell. Instead, the cells are moving rapidly, single cells, as single cells. But though they are also having all these properties of cancer, so we'll call them cancer cells. Now, leukemia simply means the cancer of white blood cells, higher count of white blood cells. It is also called blood cancer. So, leukemia means high WBC or white blood cell count. It's leukemia. Leukemia is totally different from the previous types because it is, remember, proliferating like all the others, growing and dividing but not in mass, not in chunk, instead single cell in a liquid form. Okay, lymphoma is again the same type of disease in our lymph nodes. Okay, so in all this, so this kind of, they are about 15% of lymphoma, leukemia, 15 to 18% of the disease. Now, carcinoma is the most common one, and among carcinoma we are going to see that lung cancer is the most predominant. Lung cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, and also the breast cancer. These four type of cancers are the most thriving cancers nowadays. Breast cancer, lung cancer is the most common, lung cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, and prostate cancer. Sarcoma is rare. Lymphoma and leukemia are also common, but carcinomas are the most important type, and we'll be talking about carcinoma and focusing on carcinoma. Importantly, we'll take colon cancer as a case study, and we'll look how a normal cell is eventually turning into a cancerous cell in a step-by-step process. Okay, we'll be seeing it in our future videos. So these are the type of cancers, and the future videos we'll be learning the transformation of normal cell into a cancer cells, or a transformation of a healthy cell into a cancerous cells, and how this transformation is actually taking place. So I hope this will helping you to understand what is cancer. Thank you.